hopefully that doesn't throw you off too much. I'm actually going to start from the beginning. And we're going to walk through some topics that some of you might be going, oh my God, I don't want to cover this, which is going to be trauma, fear, and hate. And they all relate to each other in some way. And some of you might be like, I do not want to talk about trauma. It's not going to be exactly what you think it is. It's going to be an understanding of how we react to life in general. And let's be honest, we all have our own trauma responses to things. It's just the experience of being human. So that being the case, let's take a look really quick at Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you're going to see a whole list of it on the module if you haven't taken a look at that already. The hierarchy of needs is really important to recognize because when you feel like you are dealing with something, your reaction is probably because you feel like a certain need is not being met, whether it's psychological safety, maybe being loved or belonging, maybe it's your esteem, or maybe it's your self-actualization, right? So each one of these has a very specific part of your life in being a human. And again, this is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you've probably heard it before, so this will just be covering. And if not, I hope that this does something very important for you in understanding who you are as a person as you're starting to understand your identity. All right. I'm going to start from, if you saw in the article, there's a little triangle. I'm going to start from the bottom and go up, obviously, because the bottom is the most important. So let's take a look at that. The reason why I do that is when we talk about fears in the discussion, I want you to understand when you're having fears on things, what do you feel, what need do you feel is not being met? Okay, something to recognize. So psychological needs, physiological, totally different. Physiological needs, air, water, food, shelter, sleep, clothing, reproduction, the essence of existing, right? The very bottom, the things we need to keep living, okay? These biological requirements are for human survival, as you can imagine. If these needs are not satisfied, the human body cannot function optionally, right? Yeah, water's in there. Make sure you're drinking your water. Okay, so Maslow considered these physiological needs the most important of all the other needs because you cannot function without them. Okay, physiological needs. Think about that. All right, safety needs. Once your physiological needs are met, like you got your food, you got your shelter, your sleep, your clothing, all those little things together. The next thing that comes with that is safety. What's your need for safety? It's the need for security and safety to feel whole, right? Salient. People who want to experience order, predictability, and control their lives. For me, I like order. I like to know that I feel safe, that I know what's coming, that, when I go to bed, I don't feel like someone is going to, break in or steal something, right? That's our safety. Okay. And a lot of that comes from whether you have employment, like you feel safe at your job, or you feel like, you have a job. Maybe that's a safety need for you. Maybe social welfare. That includes law and order, things that you feel because we have certain laws of breaking in and entering. When there's somebody in the house, you could trust that that law will deter most people from coming in. Maybe freedom from fear, social stability, having friends and family that you feel connected with. Maybe having property like a car, house. Maybe houses aren't the thing right now, but an apartment maybe. Okay. And maybe health and well-being, being able to take care of yourself. In other words, safety against like accidents. Okay. That is going to be your safety needs. So think about those. Love and belongingness. That is going to be third on the tier of needs. And that comes, and we're going to talk about this fear and trauma and why we in hate and why we join certain groups is because of a need for belonging and wanting to be a part of. Okay. So humans need social connection. We do. And you'll find often where there's certain things of recovery, whether it's addiction or something, maybe church too. We need community. And community is what kind of, partake. It also relates to feeling safe, right? A place of belonging. Belongingness refers to human emotional need for interpersonal relationships, feeling connected with someone. You're struggling, they're struggling, you connect, and then it helps you to get through said struggle. Okay. It's a part of being a group. We all just kind of feel that. And there's times where we might feel that we are introverted and that we are loners, but the reality is deep down, it's just that we have fears of connecting with others. And so it's easier, as it were, to, stay at home and not partake in social interactions. So it's just important to recognize that while we might think that we are, we are secluded and we don't need people, the truth is, in reality, humans do need social interactions. So just keep that in mind. Let's see here. Um, Examples of belongingness would be friendships, intimacy, trust, acceptance, receiving and giving affection, and love. Okay. You can find sometimes these connections at work, like sometimes you can find them at work. Like if you're in retail, um, in my experience in retail, we always joked and, I think we would have called it a trauma bonding. Everything's going down, and you hold on. You're like, "You're my best friend. You're my best friend," right? So, but still, there was a bond that was created there. So sometimes work can create those as well. Sometimes it can be the opposite, where you don't feel a part of. So that might be a need that you are missing. All right, now esteem needs, right? That's our fourth level. It includes self worth, accomplishment, and respect, right? As you notice, we get higher, it's less and less of these things we necessarily need in order to be full human. So, esteem needs, um, it's important to not put too much on those because respect and accomplishments, like sometimes we put so much on the self-worth that we don't recognize our achievements. Like when we talked before about growth mindset and fixed mindset, if your whole need is on being having certain self-worth of accomplishments, when you don't achieve certain goals that you've been trying to attain, it could very well get into your psyche and kind of mess with you a little bit. So be mindful of this particular need. Maslow classified esteem needs in two different categories. Esteem for oneself, like your esteem for yourself, which includes maybe dignity, achievement, maybe you're mastering something, maybe your independence. Esteem for yourself, when we talk about dignity, are you doing respectable things? Are you living a life of integrity? Like when you do good things, you feel good. All right. So consider that if you're having esteem issues, recognizing, what is it that's developing, and where might we have too much emphasis on something that we don't need to have it on. So it's a balance thing. It's a recognizing where, we can be gentle with ourselves if we're not meeting certain agenda items that we feel we must have at a certain time or place. So be gentle with yourself. So the second category is the desire for reputation or respect from others. Unfortunately, while that's awesome, sometimes it can be detrimental, especially if you are on social media. And I just say this because very often people are out there to hurt on purpose. So hopefully you don't put too much esteem in the comments of strangers. Okay. So when we talk about reputation and respect from others, we talk about our status. How do we feel about things? Or maybe our prestige. Maslow indicated that the need for respect or reputation is most important for children, okay, and adolescence, and precedes real self-esteem or dignity. Okay, so keep that in mind. This will be a part of when we talk about ourselves in our identity as we're growing forward, and this could kind of come back to, again, when we talk about brainology, our fixed mindset versus our growth mindset. You know, this need for reputation, this need to be seen in a certain light, precedes real self-esteem or dignity. And sometimes we do things that we wouldn't normally do in order to fit in. Okay, we'll talk about that in when we talk about hate. All right, and then last but not least, self-actualization needs. It's the highest level on Maslow's hierarchy, and it refers to the rationalization of a person's potential, their self-fulfillment, seeking personal growth, and peak experiences. Again, top, very tip top, very little, doesn't have to be, the need that you ultimately get, just recognize it's the ideal, and not everyone needs the ideal. So, for example, an individual may have a strong desire to become an ideal parent. All right, so self actualization needs. You want to be the ideal parent, but let's be honest, Not always is that easy to do. There's a whole different human being that it's developing. Good luck. I don't have children because I don't trust myself with doing a good job as an ideal parent. Okay, so another might have a desire to be, economically, academically, or athletically, sound in some way. And then for others, it might be expressed in creativity, whether you're doing painting, pictures, or inventions. So, long story short, your self actualization, like the place that you want to be, could be anything, and you get to decide what that is. All right, so I am going to pause for a little bit and I'm going to have you take a quick quiz on post traumatic growth and understanding traumas, and then we'll come right back.